Hello everyone! So the final two units of the Rose series are finally here. We have Flocke and Sue. So Flocke's finally joining the roster as a strike supporter, and we have Sue as a stab attacker. This update also came with a whole bunch of other features and improvements that I will go through over in a separate video, like tomorrow or something. As you can see, like even this quick menu is different. There's a lot more options here. It's very nice. But for this video, we're just going to go over Flocke and Sue. I'll give you my opinions, what I think about them, and then I'll do polls. So yeah, I guess first up we have the memoria. The memoria is a supporter memoria. For supporters, all allies, when equipped to a supporter, all allies gain 28% crit damage at max level. So very good memoria. We have other memoria like this for skill damage. Crit damage isn't necessarily higher value than skill damage. In fact, it's generally easier to obtain, so it's a little bit worse than other memoria that give skill damage at a similar value, but like the one we have right now for the Lydie and Sue banner on global. But it's still a very solid memoria if you don't have that one, and you can get it unlocked, so pretty good. The stats are whatever, but it's a supportive memoria. Unless you need the speed, like these stats are fine. But yeah, so first up I'm going to go over Flocke. Flocke is a strike supporter, and she's basically very, very similar to Lydie. So she's kind of like, in a lot of ways, she can be used as a direct replacement for Lydie if you don't have Lydie and you get Flocke. They're kind of interchangeable in a lot of ways. I'll go through why that is. I think Flocke in most situations is probably slightly better, but there are some, they're a little bit different, right? So first we have her passives. As always, she is a Rose unit. She gets just straight up ailment immunity. That's pretty normal. And then her other passive is just all allies gain plus 10% attack and defense, both physical and magical, so plus 10% to all those stats. It's an alright passive. It's not amazing, but it's solid, but it's not interesting. I would have preferred something more interesting because all of the other Rose units have these really cool passives, but I think this is kind of how they're sort of keeping her in line. They didn't want to power creep Lydie too hard. So that kind of makes sense. Her skill 1 is just a single target attack, whatever, you don't care about that, she's a supporter. After using it, all allies gain critical rate plus 10%, permanently stacking up to 100%. So this is pretty similar to like Bolt Resna, but it ramps a lot slower, right? Only giving 10% per use, however it is on skill 1. It's still kind of awkward. It's not really a direct replacement for Bolt Resna, but in some situations it kind of can be, because you might just like get the damage from her skill 2 and then use the skill 1 to ramp the crit rate, or in the opposite order, if you really need like that party slot, like if you can't afford to give up that party slot for Bolt Resna, and then you just reset until you roll the correct crits, right? So it's not bad. It's pretty solid as far as skill 1 goes. Her skill 2 is an area heal. The power on it is pretty low. I believe Lydie's healing power is about like 106% or so, so it's a bit lower. However, it has this line here, which is when the target is under 70% HP, recovery increased by 100%. So double recovery when the target's at lower HP. Now, if the target's above 70% HP, they're going to get fully healed even without this. So this is just straight up like, that's a lot of healing, right? Just a ton of healing. Her healing, like the strongest AoE healer we have in the game right now. So just for that alone, she will be very strong. Just for that alone, because her healing output is way higher. It's kind of difficult to get high amounts of healing from traits. Like let's say for Lydie, you have perfect gear with 3 damage buff traits and 3 AoE heal traits. That's still only 75% increased recovery from the traits, and you can still use that gear on Flocke. So yeah, very, very strong healing output, very solid. And then also it gives a buff. It's a permanent critical damage buff to your party after healing them, and it stacks up to 50%, so it can't go past 50%. Now this does scale with the damage buff trait, however it doesn't scale the maximum, so you could get this up to 50% in one turn, and then for example just use the skill 1 for higher crit rate after that. because this doesn't expire. This is a permanent buff. So unlike Lydie, the buff is permanent, which means you don't need to continuously cast skill 2 to keep that buff up. However, it does cap out at 50%. You can't go higher than that. And it is critical damage instead of skill damage. And like I mentioned for the memoria, critical damage is honestly not necessarily higher value than skill damage nowadays in the Japanese meta, because critical damage is a much easier stat to get in large quantities because of the critical damage up trait that we have now, which is 60% critical damage on a trait at level 5. 60%, that's a lot. So on average, Flocke's buff is probably lower damage than Lydie's buff, but they're going to be pretty close. And it does have nice quality life and better healing. So for most situations, as long as you are critting, it's probably a bit better. Requiring the crits is of course an important caveat, but it's generally pretty easy to get very high or guaranteed crit chance on most team comps nowadays. So it's not a huge deal, but it is an important thing to note. You do need to be getting crits for, you know, to make use of this crit damage buff, right? Because it is crit damage. So basically kind of like probably better than Lydie, but it's worse damage potential, worse consistency, but much better healing. So kind of a side grade in a lot of ways. And then we have her burst. It's an area damage burst with 100% crit rate. Obviously, we don't really care about that. You can build her as damage if you want to take advantage of that, but who really cares? And then it's before attacking. She increases the critical damage the target takes by 30%, and this is a permanent debuff, and it stacks to 60%. Now, this burst is not that good. This received critical damage debuff on enemies is actually additive with your character's critical damage stat. So instead of being multiplicative. So it's not going to take the final damage, like crit damage value, and then multiply it by 30%. It's going to take your crit damage multiplier and add 30% to that. So let's say, you know, your character has 200% crit damage. So they're doing, you know, say they do 100 damage, they have 200% crit damage. So on crit, they do 300 damage, right? If this was multiplicative, then that would increase that to 390 damage, but it's not, it's additive with your crit damage, so that increases it to 330 damage, right? Significantly worse. But it is good because it's a permanent debuff. It does stack to 60%. So like, it's still not bad as an extra damage multiplier, but it's not amazing either. Like at the end of the day, it is extra damage, but there's no way to scale the value, so you do have to use it twice to get the max value. It's still only 30% crit damage. It's just kind of mediocre. It's still good. It's still very useful. It's just not exceptional. Like when you use Lydie's burst, everything will die, right? Assuming your timeline's correct. So like, it's okay. Lydie has much higher damage potential with her burst, especially in things like wave battles, which you've been getting a lot recently. So there's, yeah, Flocke's not bad. She is a much better healer, bit worse damage, very solid support unit, can generally directly replace Lydie if you want to, and the healing output is obviously, you can't underestimate that. It's really good. Along with that, her synthesis gift is area healing, so very good gift. She also links to Lydie, so you know, you can go Flocke, Lydie, Augite, or something for the gear. Very solid synthesis chain there. Yeah, pretty good character in that regard. She's also good for making healing items, like healing bells and stuff, but you probably won't make very many of those. We also have leader skills with this update. Leader skills are pretty cool. You select a leader for your party, you get a bonus. Flocke's leader skill is for each merchant class character you have, your party gains 8% attack. I might be able to show the class here. Yeah. So like these are the merchant characters in the game. So, you know, if you have 3 Resnas in Flocke, it's like 30% attack for your entire team. Not bad, but not the best leader skill either. I'll go over leader skills a bit more in a video specifically about them, because there's a lot to uncover there. So look forward to that. I would say you probably won't be using Flocke's leader skill just as like a preliminary judgment. So even if you have her team, her leader skill probably isn't affecting her power at all. But yeah, very good character. If you don't have Lydie and you have Flocke, you'll be pretty happy with that. So, but they are side grades to each other. So yeah. And then we have Sue, and I think Sue is actually the more interesting character of the two. I think Flocke's kit design is a bit boring, but it's fine. She's still a solid character. So one thing about Sue that jumps out like immediately, her physical attack is absurdly high. I think it might be the highest in the game, but I didn't double check. It's very, very high. Very solid physical attack. And then, of course, the Rose passive, Ailment's Immunity. And then her other passive is actually pretty cool. So whenever you use an item, Sue gets a buff that makes her next attack knock back the enemy by 1 turn. If you've ever used Fierce, you know that this effect is very strong. It's a very cool, very good effect. And now it's here, you know, just when you use items. It can only be used 3 times per battle, but you're not going to be using items that much anyways, so that limitation doesn't really matter. But yeah, after using an item on her next attack, knock back the target. So pretty cool. Delay is very strong. Honestly, I would love to use her for that. I probably won't get her, but I guess we'll see. Her skill 1 is actually like one of the best attacker skill 1s we have in the game right now. Not only does it have a very respectable damage rate for a skill 1, it charges your item gauge by 10%, and it also gives her a permanent stacking debuff for physical attack. So 10% physical attack per stack, and then it goes up to a max of 30%. So very, very good skill 1, increasing her physical attack, and just charging your item gauge. You're always happy when you're able to use this for timeline manipulation and stuff. Very, very, very good. Then we have her skill 2. Solid damage rate, 375%. This is one of the higher damage rates in the game. Obviously it's not Ryza with 450, but it's still very good, especially because it doesn't have a conditional damage buff on it, so it needs to have a high value to like be a good attacker skill. However, what it does have is after attacking, she auto-evades the next attack, so 100% evade chance the next time she's hit. This, to me, sounds really powerful, especially once we start getting harder content with higher damage output again. Just that consistent evade every single time she attacks, really good. It lowers her need for area defense traits so that she can go all in on damage traits without, you know, being in danger of dying. So really, really, really solid effect there for some potentially difficult content. And it also keeps her at full HP a lot more reliably, which is important for her burst, which I'll go over in a bit. And of course, a normal wait time of 200. So what we've seen in the past is characters that have strong abilities like this, like Yudi's auto-evade, Fierce's delay, they get 275 wait time on their skill 2. They did not do that to poor Sue, thankfully, so she is a usable character with both of these strong effects in one character. So very excited to see how she shapes up. She's not going to be your highest damaging attacker, but her damage will be respectable, and she does have these really good utilities and defensive buffs in her kit, so very interested to see how that shapes up there. And you know, with really high phys attack, that kind of makes up for the downsides of like not having a like conditional damage boost on her skill 2 or something, right? And then her burst, of course, does have its own conditional damage boost. Basically, for each percent of HP she has, it gets 1% increased damage. So at 100% HP, its damage is boosted by 100%, and it's a normal 500% burst, so pretty good. And then before attacking, it also gives her a permanent skill damage 50% buff that stacks up to 100%. So the burst actually does do a ton of damage, especially if she's at full HP. However, unlike the original Sue, full HP is not required. Like if she's at 90%, she's still going to be getting 90% damage from this, right? So because full HP isn't required, that makes this effect much, much stronger, right? So very, very strong burst here. And yeah, just overall, I really like her kit. I think it sounds fun. I think it sounds strong. Very solid burst, very solid skill 2. Just really good buff on the skill 1. Delay, lots of good utility. She should shape up to be a very, very good single target attacker going forward. Not the highest damage single target attacker, but a very solid one. And then she also, her leader skill is for those who can hear the voices of the materials, which is a reference to mysterious characters. Mysterious is one of the sub-series of Atelier, like Sophie and Fierce are from there. Attack and defense plus 30%. So this is a pretty solid leader skill because she is in this group herself, and 30% attack and defense is nothing to scoff at. So if you're using her in the party, I would expect that you might end up choosing her as your leader, because 30% attack is a very good leader skill. And, you know, she'll also be giving defense to characters like Lydie, to characters like Sophie, to characters like Defender Lydie. So just like, honestly, a very high tier leader skill overall, I feel, from what I've seen from leader skills so far. So just her entire package seems really good to me. Her gift doesn't matter. It's full HP physical damage. The other Sue has this as well. It's pretty bad. But yeah, I would rate her quite highly currently. I'm not going to give her like an actual tiering until I see what other people think about her from using her, but her kit doesn't seem like it has any downsides to me. Seems very strong. Then on top of that, we also have some gear for these characters. So let's just go look at that real quick. I'll look at Sue's gear first and then Flocke's gear. So Sue, her weapon, 95% attack for stab attackers, increased skill damage based on HP, so 20% skill damage at 100% HP. This is okay. I think the tower weapon is probably better if I remember right, but it's still not a bad weapon at all, and it's fairly cheap, so that's all right. Then we have this armor. So whenever an item is used, gain a buff that gives skill damage plus 24% for 1 turn. This is weird to me. Damaging armor is kind of rare and kind of lower values. So the 24% skill damage buff to herself is good. However, you're not going to be using damage buff A on her to scale it. It's not worth using that on her over just like skill power or crit damage traits. So this is just going to be 24% skill damage. And it's solid, but it's only when you use items. There are probably better options. And then we have the accessory, which for stab attackers, single target, skill damage plus 80%, 12 speed. This is a good accessory. I wish it was an HP speed stat line. I generally prefer attackers to be a little bit slower, so all of your supporting buff units can go ahead of them, but her speed is still low enough that this isn't going to like put her ahead of Lydie usually, so it's still a fine accessory, but I would prefer HP on it. But with her evasion, she probably doesn't need the HP quite as much, so it's still okay. Good damage accessory for Sue. And then for Flocke's gear, we have the boomerang. This is probably the most important piece of gear for her. After using a skill, all allies gain 6% physical attack for 1 turn. Now, this doesn't scale with traits because it's physical attack and not a damage buff, but it's still really good to have a 6% physical damage buff on the equipment. It just makes characters like Ellie feel even sadder, right? Hers is like 12% magic attack with a 275 wait time on a skill 2, and that's like all it does. So yeah, 6% physical attack, very solid weapon. The armor is receive damage minus 6%, nothing groundbreaking. You probably use different armor on her, but it's not bad either. And then the accessory would be all allies gain 7% crit damage. There are also probably better options here, but this isn't bad. It is extra damage for your strike supporters, so not a terrible item. But overall, the gear is kind of mediocre, nothing amazing, but still very usable, very solid items, right? So, but it's nothing like, it's not going to like skyrocket their power level or anything. It's just very solid, very decent gear. So yeah, without further ado, let's just get to the polls, right? We have a lot of daily polls. I have some permanent tickets, so I guess we can use those first. And I also have tickets for Flocke and Sue, but no gems, unfortunately. Yeah, let's just go go through all these. Now, these are Atelier Fest tickets, so perm pool. And the permanent pool for Atelier Fest hasn't been updated. I don't think they will do it. So there's not really anything like super good I could get out of this, but they gave us the tickets for completing Chapter 11, may as well do it. Get the bad luck out of the way, right? Alright, and now I have daily polls. We have all 3 rose banners up at the moment. They end, you know, April 3rd. So, gonna go through all of those, and then we'll do the actual tickets for the new banner. And of course, probably nothing. We'll just skip through the daily polls to make them a bit faster. It'll just be 3 tests or something anyways, right? I still, on this account, have never gotten a rate-up character from a daily poll. So that's kind of unfortunate. Would be funny if it happened now, but it surely won't. 1 wink, maybe a chance. Probably not. Yeah, we have no characters out and about, so unless it's a fake out, not gonna be anything good here. Hey, look, a second Tess. That's great. I hope we get a 3rd one. That'd be pretty funny. Alright, now to the new banner that everyone's been waiting for. Uh-oh. Yeah. And of course the daily polls are just pretty bad. Oh, it's Tao. Of course it's Tao. Always has to be Tao. Somewhere. Alright. But it's fine. We still have tickets left. Hopefully these go well. My tickets haven't been good recently, but they've been good to me in the past, so it's fine. I guess. Oh, only 1 wink. Alright. Oh, we got Oscar at least, but we don't have Silver Sparkles. So probably nothing great here. Yeah, this is looking like just SRs, unfortunately. No fake. Oh! We got some sparkles at the end there. That might be a 3-star then, but it wasn't like the full fake out animation, right? Oh wait. Oh, we got the bigger meteor shower though? Oh, maybe it's good then. Nice. Who is this? Oh my god, we got Sue! Alright, I actually got a rose unit. Thank god. I don't have any of the other rose units. I'm actually really happy about this. Sue is definitely the most interesting one to me, and I can't wait to use her. Oh, that's so nice. And the rest is just 1-stars, but that's fine. Can't complain about that, right? Super happy about that. She's definitely the one I wanted more between her and Flocke, because Flocke and Lydie are like very similar, right? Sue is actually an interesting attacker, so very happy to have her. And let's just go again. Maybe we'll get Flocke too, who knows? And no winks, it's totally dead, isn't it? Yep, looking pretty bad. No special effects or anything so far, unless it does a fake out on me again. The last pull was pretty funny because the fake out was like the super late subtle one where they get the sparkles right at the end into the meteor shower, right? Which I've never really seen that before, I think. But yeah, shouldn't be anything in here. That's fine. Can't complain. Very happy about that. Oh, we do get a memoria. Wait. Not a bad memoria. That's the fire damage magic attack one, I believe. And I didn't have it already. It's actually new, so pretty cool. Alright, not bad. Super happy with that. Can't wait to actually use Sue more. Should be pretty fun. Anyways, that is all for this video. Thank you all for watching. I hope you're looking forward to my upcoming videos on all of the new UI and stuff. leader skill update, everything like that. There is a lot to go over and a lot of stuff to look forward to for global. So especially with Ryza coming soon as well on global. But yeah, updates fantastic, and thank you all for watching. I will see you all in the next one. Bye bye.